do winning now and preparing for the future have to be divergent strategies? I'm over here saying they gotta go all in. Can they do both?
Yeah, because you can sign free agents that are young and in their prime and also good, and that will help you right now, but it also helps you in a couple years. Like, two of the names I liked was Terrell Edmonds and Reed, right? Justin Reed, both 25 years old. You give them multi-year deals. Guess what? When you sign them, they're going to be on the roster next year. They'll
Mhm.
be on and guess what? When they're on the roster next year and the following year, and the cap balloons up, they're going to look hella cheap. like even with their salary at 10
Mhm.
million or 8 million, I mean that's going to be really cheap. So you don't necessarily have to say, okay, we're gonna go all in this. You can do both. You can get players and have them on your roster for the next couple years, and they doesn't have to be 35-year-old 35-year-old guy. It can be guy in their 20s. Now they sort of missed the boat a little bit on this now because some of those players are off the market where they could have been if they moved on from Jimmy earlier. They might have had more money than 17.8 because if someone had given them a seventh round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, he would have been on their roster and they wouldn't have to deal with the 7.5. So they would have had 25 million in cap space. So I don't think they don't have to be separate strategies. They can go all in or go in on this year, but then also provide a team for the future too by choosing to, like, Travarius Ward was one of those things. Like, he was
Mhm.
young, right? He's
Mhm.
young, good corner. Maybe you could argue J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson was, you put more money in that, and you go and get J.C. Jackson, who was an All Pro. But both of them are young and good corners, so I like that move. But you don't necessarily have to be like, oh, let's get all 30-year-olds and go all in for this year. You can get young guys, and it'll put you in a position this year and next year.
Well, that's what they're doing. That's what the Niners always do. And I disagree. I don't think it works. I mean, I don't think it works anymore. What the Niners do is have their cake and eat it too. Just like what you said, they signed Travarius Ward. They got a guy for now and in the future, but they're as concerned with the future as they are with the present. Like, they're not going to waver from their business methods to compromise the future. Like, they'll keep themselves in contention now, but also always with an eye to the future. That's why it's more important for them to get a third round pick in 2023 for Jimmy Garoppolo than to have 17.5 million in cap space now, because they're constantly trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I think it's hard to win a Super Bowl that way when you have lots of teams going all in every year. The last two Super Bowl winners are teams that have made huge investments in that particular season. And so the Niners have put themselves in a spot where they're one of the best teams in the league, but they're always going to be going up against teams that are more committed to that particular year and have made some they've mortgaged them of their future more than the Niners have. And
I
that's going to
think
get in the way. It's going to be in their way.
I wouldn't necessarily. I would disagree. I wouldn't necessarily put the Bucks in the same place as the Rams. Because if you look at the moves that the Bucks made, the Bucks made a lot of moves on a lot of young players that put them in position to win now and the next year. They weren't like the Rams were like this. The Bucks weren't necessarily like the Bucks didn't necessarily mortgage their future for the present. Like, they
They
didn't.
made a lot more moves in 2020 than a starting corner and special teams.
Yeah, they did. They
Yeah,
did.
they
But
did.
they did make a lot of their moves were with, I think, were with younger players that were going to be on their roster
But,
for.
sir, but all I'm saying is, like, preparing for the future is essentially trading players for draft picks and assets. And win now is sending out assets for players. I mean, they're pretty much the opposite thing. And you can do a little bit of both, but at a certain point, you got to decide what you want to do. And right now, the Niners are more interested in trading Jimmy for an asset than creating cap space to bring in players. And that's a problem to me. To me, they're not reading their situation correctly. That's what you do when you miss the playoffs. When you're in the NFC Championship game, you should be you should look at yourself as one of the top 10 teams in the league, an opportunity to be the best. So right now, I don't think this is the year to have your cake and eat it too. But maybe I'm wrong. It's how they do business though, and they're not going to change. It's how they do business.
Yeah, I think they can eat a little bit more cake. Like I
They should probably
don't
go
really
for
have to
it.
eat all the cake, but
They had like one little sliver slice, and they're like, "Ew, that's enough." I'm watching my weight. Like, what are you talking about, man? Gorge out, gorge out. What are you doing?
yeah. I mean, the other thing too, it's if you're looking to have cap space next year, if you can work out one of these deals on a 1-year deal, guess what? That guy's off your team next year. You'll have the cap space next year. Like you'll still have it, right? But
yeah. I don't know. I mean, the Niners have been on like a 20-year quest to prepare for the future and go all in at the same time. So maybe they'll do it eventually. I mean, that's what they tried to do last year, right? They traded. They brought all their players. They brought all their veterans back to run it back, and then they spent all their draft picks on players that were going to redshirt. I mean, they did that last year, and they got to the NFC Championship game. It almost worked, but it didn't.
An aggressive move like signing J.C. Jackson is not necessarily. It's a move for going all in now, but it's also a move for the future because he's young.
Yeah,
like you're
absolutely.
paying a premium, but he's young. Like at a position where you need youth, like corner.
I mean, all these young guys are handing starting jobs to this year without any competition or resume. Aaron Banks, Talanoa Hufanga, Javon Kinlaw, like those aren't all-in moves. That's the team. Those are moves of the team that's needing to get something out of their investments for the future. Well, we drafted these guys high. We got to see what they got for the future. I mean, I don't know. To me, the Niners have been 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a very long time, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Pick one. Pick one. Seriously. But I don't know. Coach disagrees. That's fair, and I respect Coach very much.
Yeah, I get your point, but I think you can accomplish both by who you sign. Be aggressive. Be aggressive in
signing. Don't sign a bunch of Richard Shermans. I get that. I'm with you on that. I do. Absolutely. I agree with that. I do. David Sanchez says the faithful more like the faithless. Thanks, John. John, you're unpopular. I suggest signing Terrell Edmonds or Zadarius Smith today. People would like you. Again, what are your thoughts on Brady being a Niner? Ask AC. There are speculations that Brady's trying to do that. I think that's over.
Yeah.
I think it's over. I think he was trying to do that when he was retired. 49ers daddy says just need to cut Jimmy now. All a part of the plan. If we were honest, we always knew we wouldn't get anything for him. Pump and dump wasn't it. Yeah, that's why I made fun of it the whole time. And people said, why are you being negative? He's really playing great. Look at his QBR the last 4 games. And the whole time I was like, you kidding? And it was like the Niner fans were like, look, we know he's trash. All right, look, we know he's trash. But we're not going to say it out loud. We're going to make the argument that he's good, and another team is going to fall for it. Like, nah, everyone knows he's trash. Sorry. That's the way it happened. Cap speaking says, okay, hear me out. Jimmy to the Browns. He holds it down for Watson's suspension for next season. Then Browns let Jimmy walk. We take Mayfield and have a better chance of trading him away.
How the hell are they going to fit that in the
Dude, they're already. I don't think that's going to happen, man. But I don't think it's going to happen. Hold on. Let me see how much cap space the Browns have right now. Browns over the cap. Well, they don't have Watson on here. Oh, do they? Says they have $26 million in cap space. I don't think they'd have to create a little bit more. Man, that's a lot of money for Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. If they want to do that, great. But I guess that's another benefit of holding on to Jimmy Garoppolo. You can find out if Watson's suspended, and then the Browns can make a stupid decision. I don't know. I doubt that's going to happen.
You could trade Jimmy for a second next year or this year, but then you give the other team back your first in like 2024. But you just put that in like small little writing so fans don't see that. So they're like, oh, we got our second.
John Wayne says, waive Jimmy G, re-sign Jimmy G as Trey Lance's backup at a reduced rate. No one else will sign Jimmy until he's healthy. Yeah, man, waive that dude. Cut Jimmy G. Cut Jimmy G. Hold on. It's like people didn't want to hear this stuff in the past, but I wrote that the 49ers should cut bait and release Jimmy Garoppolo, and 756 people have liked that in 3 hours. So I think Niner fans are right there with me.
And they've hurt themselves in this respect, because if they had just cut him at the outright of free agency, he probably would have been signed by another team. They wouldn't be on the hook for that 7.5.